So, you want to get rich quick. Sorry, we don't know how. But what we do know is how to get rich slow. You can get rich slow through compounding. We love talking about compounding, and in this video, we want to demonstrate how powerful it can be if you're investing for the long term. But first, here's a story. Legend has it, there was an Indian king who was obsessed with chess. Whenever a new traveller entered his kingdom, he would challenge them to a game, and if they beat him, he would reward them with any treasure or prize they desired. One day, a pilgrim wandered into his land and was challenged to a game by the king. When asked for his terms, he made a modest request. "Your Highness, I would simply like a single grain of rice for the first square and for each following square to double the last." The king laughed and agreed to these measly terms. The pilgrim went on to beat the king in impressive fashion, leaving the king stunned by his ability. However, the king stayed true to his promise and acknowledged that the pilgrim's reward would be met. The king's servants began placing grains of rice upon the chessboard, 1 in the first square, 2 in the second, 4 in the third, 8 in the fourth, and so on. It didn't take the king long to realise that he may have bitten off a little more than he could chew. He calculated that on the 31st square, he would be required to put down 1 billion grains of rice, and on the 64th and final square, he would need to place roughly 9 quintillion grains. That's about 105 billion tons of rice, enough to cover the whole of modern-day India in a half-metre thick layer of rice. The king tore out his hair. What appeared to be a small request for a few bags of rice was going to bankrupt his kingdom. The pilgrim acknowledged that it was a ridiculously large amount of rice and agreed that the king could pay it off in installments and even pay him in other assets like gold or land. So, what does this fable teach us? The story teaches us about the incredible power of compounding. A little rice multiplied over and over again can amass to enormous amounts. The same principle applies to investing. Time and time again, we see how wealth is built through the slow accumulation of capital over decades. In a recent video, we shared some advice from Warren Buffett. Take a look at his fortune. He had amassed a very respectable $1 million by the age of 30, but Buffett's investment approach and returns on these investments compounded. 7 years later, he had 10 times that amount. By the age of 53, his wealth had multiplied by 620 times. And at the age of 87, Buffett's wealth was an astounding 86,600 times the size of his wealth at age 30. You might be thinking, if only I had $1 million to start at the age of 30. But we don't have to use the example of millionaires to demonstrate the power of compounding. Imagine you start investing $200 a week today and achieved returns of 7.5%, which is the average of the annual return of the ASX 200 over the last 20 years. Doing this over a period of 20 years, you would end up with around $448,000. Your contributions would have only made up $208,000 of this amount. The rest would have been the returns and the returns on those returns. It's worth noting, this is just a hypothetical example. You can't invest directly in an index, and we haven't accounted for investing fees and expenses in this example. But the principle holds. Compound returns take small, incremental changes and multiplies them over time. Now, what's the best way to capitalize on compound returns? Firstly, you can start early. The earlier you begin, the longer your investment time frame, and therefore, the more of the compound effect you'll see over time. Secondly, you can invest consistently. Compound interest works if you just make a single investment, but it really starts to snowball when you're regularly contributing to that amount. The Money Smart government website has a handy tool which shows how compounding works in relation to interest earned on a savings account. You can find that tool in the link in the description. Compound returns is a long-term investing approach that can help you build wealth on your investment journey. But remember, compounding works both ways. It's important to understand that fees and expenses can compound over time too. Check out this video here for more information on the importance of fees. And if you like this content, consider subscribing. Bye for now.